Once the time was up, I opened up my refrigerator and this is what I found.
Wow. Cool. Look at the texture of that MSG. Chef Brian Tsao here, not your typical chef, and today I'm gonna be reacting to Guga Foods' insane umami dry age experiment. Before I go on with today's episode, I do want to shout out my newest sous chef level patrons, Juan Gonzalez, Dennis Pernada. Thank you so much for your support. You, along with all the patrons, really do make a difference on this channel. And for those of you who are watching, please consider becoming a patron. Visit the link in the description below. By becoming a patron, you get to take advantage of some awesome perks like discounts off my merch store, early access to new episodes, plus you get priority on suggesting the next episodes that I react to. And finally, I want to shout out Vlad Dudier and the entire CBS Mornings team and everyone who came to visit the shop as a result of that CBS The Dish segment covering myself and Mission Sandwich Social. It was kind of overwhelming, the amount of you who came by saying you saw me on CBS and wanted to try the sandwich shop. We had people calling from Michigan, people visiting from Boston, Albany, New York. I mean, from far and wide. I am just completely overwhelmed and so thankful. Guys, again, I don't know what else to say. I'm just really grateful. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, I'm speechless. And with that out of the way, let's react to some. This is Guga Foods. I don't think there's gonna be much shitty about it.
This is MSG, also known as monosodium glutamate. To be more specific, it is the sodium salt of glutamic acid. MSG is naturally found in many foods we eat every day, including tomatoes, egg yolks, mushrooms, grape juice. Basically, it is in almost everything we eat naturally. Now, they usually make MSG out of fermented sugarcane or tapioca root.
That I did not know, but everything that Guga is saying so far, 1000% true. MSG is naturally occurring, and as he mentioned, it can be found in some of our favorite foods.
Today we're gonna use this stuff to dry age beef. The first thing I needed to find out is how fast it actually dissolves. And as you can see, as I put a little drop of water, it almost dissolves instantly.
That right there is an indication and a sign that this guy is really freaking experienced. And I mean, obviously this guy has millions of followers and views on his channel. He already knows what he has to look for when he's about to prepare something for dry aging. And that's very important. That's experience. The more someone is experienced at any job, the better prepared you are for any variables that may occur, and you'll know how to recover from that. One of the biggest differences between a good chef and a great chef is just simply the level of experience. Right away, when he mentions, I need to see how easily this dissolves, means that he knows that how something dissolves will affect how it's going to dry age, because beef or protein in general is predominantly water. So if he hats this onto the meat, if it dissolves right away, then it's not really going to do him any good, right? He's not going to be able to achieve the dry aging. So that was unexpected and really fascinating, and just a testament to how freaking good and experienced Guga is. Clearly, I'm fanboying, and I'm very biased.
Since beef is almost 75% water, this is a big problem. But after doing so many dry aging experiments, I know exactly what to do. By adding a little bit of water to the MSG, I can actually make a paste out of it. As you can see, as soon as I start mixing it up, everything starts crumbling.
Do not try this experiment at home. Okay. Too much of anything is no good for you, okay? And MSG is one of those things that is definitely not good for you in too high of a quantity. It'll dehydrate you. You know, you can potentially get headache from it. I know that, like, for example, when I go eat dim sum with friends and family for the first, you know, I usually don't go very often, but when I do, I eat a lot, and then I usually like have a light migraine afterwards. But yeah, I love the disclaimer. I think that's absolutely hilarious. But I should also mention, again, Guga's experience coming into play. He knows right away, okay, for this particular item, because it dissolves so quickly, I need to make a paste out of it, and that is how I'm going to achieve my dry aging. Very cool.
Because you know, if I just apply the MSG directly by itself, it will completely fall off. That is not what we're looking for. Now this, in the other hand, should work just fine. And for our beef, I'm going to be using this beautiful 3-bone rib roast. As you can see, it is a beauty. I have no idea what the MSG is going to do to it, but I'll tell you one thing I'm very excited to find out. So the first thing I did was to lay down a little bit of parchment paper. Then I applied a bedding of MSG. I laid the roast right on top and covered the whole thing with it.
Something I just remembered that I meant to say earlier when I paused it about the disclaimer is that he had to clearly state, like, don't try this at home, don't do this experiment. I mentioned this in past videos, you know, whether it was sous vide everything or the past Guga video that I reviewed, or I reacted to rather. This guy is experimenting to the extreme. Basically, he's experimenting to crazy extremes so that you and I don't have to. It's, you know, obviously for entertainment value, but also, someone like myself who is a restaurant owner, I have a sandwich shop in Williamsburg. It's not a full-service restaurant, but a restaurant nonetheless. I am not going to spend money on an expensive piece of beef that goes anywhere from $7 to up to $10 a pound for a cut like this. That right there is probably 7-8 pounds. I'm not gonna spend that money so I can experiment with something. I've definitely R&D'd stuff, test stuff, but ultimately, like, not for my own entertainment value. You know what I mean? And that is why I love this dude's channel so much. Very cool. Very, very cool.
That right there is something you might never see again. I like to call this the MSG dry age cake. Now the only thing left to do is to let it rest on my refrigerator for a total of 28 days.
Wow. 28 days, regular home fridge, okay, 34 degrees Fahrenheit. So the danger zone, basically the temperature zone where bacteria and viruses and, you know, foodborne illness basically multiply rapidly and could potentially get you sick. Rule of thumb is between 40 degrees and 140 degrees. So, you know, you can go like 41, 42, up to 45, but generally 40 to 140 degrees. Your home fridge, if it's at 34 degrees, yeah, that's, you know, it's a little on the colder side, but that's a good temp for dry age.
Once the time was up, I opened up my refrigerator and this is what I found.
Wow. Cool. Look at the texture of that MSG. It is just completely transformed. And look at the beef inside. You can see it clearly has shrunk. What does salt do? You know, MSG is not salt, you know, but it's a type of salt, you know, for, let's just simplify it. It's going to extract moisture. So the beef has shrunk also over time. Just naturally, the beef will expel moisture. So you can clearly see the beef has shrunk, and I guess the moisture content in the air has transformed the texture of the MSG. Very fascinating. Also notice that he had moved it onto a wire rack, and that's very important because this way air can also access the bottom of the product. Yes, there is parchment, but still removing it from a cutting board and not putting it on a flat surface. It looks like something's on top of the wire rack. I can't tell if it's perforated or not. But anyway, by putting it on a wire rack, it allows the underside of this you know, beef covered in MSG. It allows the underside to get some air as well. Unreal. I mean, looks like something out of a science fiction movie. So cool.
The MSG completely transformed in something else. It almost looks like it had a chemical reaction. It first produced a crust and then it completely crumbled. But the most impressive thing to me is that when I look really...
Can someone tell me what Kinko effect means? It's probably something obvious that, like, when I read the comment and you guys let me know how dumb I am, or I'll be like, oh, whoops, my bad. This beef has not oxidized. Very interesting.
It almost looks like popcorn.
And when I say oxidized, it didn't turn to that brown color when it's exposed to oxygen. Still very vibrant, bright red.
But if you look closely, in some areas you can still see the intact MSG without nothing happened to it. But hey, the most important thing right now is to take the whole thing out and see what lies inside. And let me tell you something, as I'm doing so, this is a complete mess. My prep table has never been this messy. What a complete nightmare. And if you think that it's easy to clean off the MSG from the meat, no, it is not easy. I actually had to take it outside and use my leaf blower.
Wow.
But once I was done with the cleaning, this is what it looks like.
Wow. Holy moly. Look at that color. And I don't think he's trimmed it. Wow. So cool. You see, there's a tiny bit of, on the bone, that bone marrow is a tiny bit of oxidation, but for the most part, it's barely oxidized.
After dry aging so many different pieces of meat, this one is the prettiest one of them all.
Wow.
That looks phenomenal.
And coming from him, that is really saying something, because again, like, I haven't watched too many of his videos. I only recently discovered Guga Foods thanks to you guys, but I've scrolled through all of his content and clearly he does a lot of dry aging. And for him to say that about this, that is fascinating.
The next thing to do is to go ahead and slice it open, and as I did, whoa, that looks incredible. I mean, take a look at these steaks. That is exactly what I was looking for. It is what I like to call perfection. Dry-aged steaks do not look any better than this. Now, the outer skin must go, and it is what we like to call pellicles. They don't taste good, they don't look good, they just have to go. So I like to go ahead and remove almost all of it. And once I was done with the trimming, I was left with two beautiful steaks.
Okay, so pellicle is, basically the dried skin found on the outside of protein when it's allowed to sit 28 days. That's going to be a pretty funky and rancid pellicle. Again, as Guga mentioned, it's not something you're going to want to eat. Also, viruses and bacteria, foodborne illness for beef tends to grow on the outside of it, which again is why you can consume it medium rare, as opposed to something like chicken where salmonella, it actually penetrates the protein. So for example, something like a turkey or a roast chicken, I like to form a little bit of a pellicle overnight. So for example, when I do my Thanksgiving turkey, I will let it sit, I brine it for a few days, and then the day before I will pull it from the brine, put it on a wire rack, truss it, put it on a wire rack, and then let it sit in my fridge uncovered, and it'll form a pellicle, basically a skin. The outside of the skin will get a little tough and dry. It's only a day, so it's fine. I cook it, you can consume it, no problem, but it will give you amazing crispy skin. That's one way to use it to your benefit.
I'll tell you one thing, they feel extremely tender. I'm afraid that once I start cooking them, they will fall apart on me. So in order to ensure that that does not happen, I like to truss it with butcher's twine. And don't forget that I still have one more MSG dry-aged steak to experiment with. So let me know what you would like me to do with this one. But now going back to our beautiful steaks, I'm also going to be adding a fresh steak. This way we can have a true comparison and find out how much better the MSG dry age one is, or if it's just a complete disaster. Now for the seasoning, here's the plan. The fresh steak, I'm only going to throw in salt and freshly ground black pepper, nothing else. This one in the middle, I'm going to be doing the same exact thing with salt and pepper. But I have a feeling that the MSG really penetrated nicely and deeply into the meat and made it very salty. So for that, I'm going to keep one as completely unseasoned.
I'm sure I'm seeing a theme, so I'm guessing he does this with pretty much every video / experiment. Love that. So cool. Super cool.
So now that you know how this experiment is going to happen, the next thing to do is to go ahead and season it. And for that, I made sure to add plenty of salt and freshly ground black pepper. As always, I made sure to season both sides. The last thing we want is unseasoned meat. But now that we have all of these beautiful steaks ready, the next thing to do is to go ahead and cook them. And for that, I'm going to be first putting a strong crust on them. Once that's done, I'll be cooking them in indirect heat until I reach an internal temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit. And for that, I'll be using my wireless thermometers. So now I say it is enough talking and it is time to cook these beautiful steaks. So let's do it.
So that looks like as it says, lump charcoal, hardwood charcoal. Generally, these types of charcoal burn much hotter and faster, which is great for searing. Your briquettes will burn more consistently, it'll still get freaking hot and it'll do the job. It'll sear, no problem, but it's a bit more controlled because briquettes, like Kingsford briquettes, basically the charcoal that's all consistent, those are compressed, and they're compressed at a very specific pressure, with very specific materials, and so the burn rate and the heat amount will be much more consistent and also a bit more longer lasting than something like hardwood charcoal. Both will give you amazing flavors, but for like that really punch hard sear, hardwood charcoal or lump charcoal is the way to go. Got charcoal to one side. He said he's gonna cook it, the rest, he's gonna sear it and then cook it the rest of the way in indirect heat. So I'm assuming he's gonna move it off to the side without the charcoal. So you put the smart thermometer. Oh, beautiful sear, beautiful sear. Yep, okay, cool, very nice. Whoa. Oh. Some of you commented like, "Uh-oh, Chef Brian's making his food sounds again." And yeah, I mean, this channel is just, it's a nice break from the fucking food disasters that is Jamie Oliver's Asian cuisine. This is really refreshing to watch someone who's just like a fucking pro at what he does. It's motivating, guys. It makes me feel good. Oh.
All right, everybody, here we have our beautiful steaks today. Are you ready, Mama?
Why do I have a feeling this is an experiment?
Because I have more than one.
That just perfect, medium rare. He had some help with the smart thermometer for sure, but man, just A+, A+ in the, professional kitchen setting. Generally we go by touch, it's also visual too. You can clearly tell by how much shrinkage there is and also the texture of the steak. The more it cooks, the more it firms up. Different cuts of beef will actually firm up differently in different areas. Even something like a burger made of ground beef, I tend to, when I check for doneness, I check on the sides of it, because if you poke the top, it can be a little deceiving because, when you poke the top, it may feel more done than it actually is. So I always squeeze on the sides. That only works for like thick burger patties. But for steaks, the touch and feel of a filet mignon will be different from a ribeye, different from a strip steak, again, different from a London broil, for example. But again, that's where the experience comes in. In this scenario, he used a smart thermometer. He's making this at his home. He's doing this for his YouTube channel. So, consistency is key. You want to have as little variables as possible. So I'm not knocking him at all for using a smart thermometer. In fact, like at home, I have a Traeger grill, and I love the fact that it has a smart thermometer built in, and I don't have to think about it because I can get more drunk.
I'm very excited about this experiment. Are you excited, Mo?
Sure. Let's go with excited. Sure.
When I say stuff like that, Mama already started getting skeptical. So we have 3 beautiful steaks for us to try.
They look really good.
I will tell you right away, this is our control steak.
Okay.
And then the variations is these 2. I want to know if there's any difference between them.
All right.
Are you ready?
Sounds good.
Cheers, everybody. That just put a smile on my face.
Perfect one.
I'm not even eating it, and that put a smile on my face.
Juicy, tender, super flavorful. I'm not gonna say beefy.
Not beefy.
Super flavorful. Beefy too, but I'm not gonna say it.
That is an amazing steak. That's all you have to say about that. It is the way it's supposed to be, a nice, pronounced char. You know what I mean? That's what I like.
Yeah.
Huh?
Heck yeah.
I'm excited for the second one. You ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, definitely no salt at all.
No salt at all. Tender. Unique flavor. But it's missing a lot of salt. What do you think?
Like, wow.
Huh?
The salt makes a huge difference.
And the salt makes a difference. But it's nice. It's a tender steak. but there is no seasoning yet, so you can't really taste it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, MSG is not salty. It has the word sodium. It's monosodium glutamate, but it's not actually salty. It's a flavor enhancer. Again, it's even on the packaging of the MSG, it said umami, and umami is the Japanese word for savory. So it's kind of this roundness. It's something that's going to uplift everything else. In itself, it doesn't particularly have flavor per se. It's a very interesting phenomenon. For those of you who haven't tried MSG before, don't be afraid of it. Again, it's naturally occurring, and just like too much sugar is no good for you, so is the same thing with too much MSG. But used the right way, it can make anything and almost everything absolutely delicious.
I thought that this steak here was gonna be extra salty, and you're gonna find out really soon why. But guys, there is no seasoning at all. It is nice, tender, a wonderful flavor, but there's no seasoning. So I know what you're thinking. You know what I'm thinking. You ready for this one? Huh? Cheers, everyone.
Right, a moment of truth. I'm very excited to see what happens. This is the dry aged with MSG, with it seasoned with salt and black pepper as well. Should be very fascinating.
Oh, that's a different steak. In a very nice way. That's a very nice steak. What do you think, Mama?
Wow, there's something different over there. What is it?
Man,
It's
that's
nice.
amazing.
Tell me what is amazing about it. I must know.
This is what's happening in my mouth. As I'm taking bites, my cheek is squeezing. Like, it feels weird right here on my cheek. It's squeezing my cheeks to have more flavor. I don't know how I can describe that. Mama, which one do you prefer?
That one. Wait.
Yeah, bye, Mama. My cheek's still squeezing. That's a weird feeling. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, you know.
It's like the little muscles that
Yes.
where the push the saliva on your
Yes.
mouth. They're like,
Very interesting. That's probably your body saying, like, we gotta water down this fucking MSG right now. This is no good. No bueno. But no, why did you put this in us? Oh man. I wonder, I don't know, I have to watch to the end, but I wonder if they show how he's feeling an hour, 3 hours, 6 hours after eating it. I'd be very curious. Again, I'm very MSG sensitive. Obviously, it doesn't stop me from eating it, but again, when I have a lot of MSG or a big meal with stuff that's cooked with a lot of MSG, I do get headaches. Like I get very parched and feeling dehydrated, and that's just my body telling me, like, drink more fucking water and dilute the shit out of this MSG.
Yeah, to you too?
now this last one, I really got it.
Yeah, it's like it's doing like this. My saliva glands, I
gland?
guess. I don't know what it's called.
He's
it's
going in
really
again.
squeezing it.
I'm going back for more.
It is not salty, which you might be thinking why. I gotta tell you why.
If anything, I would put just a little bit more salt.
And even more salt. I'm
I
gonna,
like it salty.
This one I dry aged with MSG.
What the heck? What the heck?
With MSG.
Some bites, I get it. They don't feel any different at all.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes I bite it, and it's like, it's MSG.
Yeah, welcome. There is no dry age taste.
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. If you're thinking there's gonna have a dry age taste, no. I don't know if there's any bad thing that you shouldn't do it at home, which you probably shouldn't use that amount of MSG.
Yeah, MSG is kind of.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with MSG. But I wanted to find out exactly what happens. And if you ask me if it makes a better steak, absolutely, it makes a better steak.
Wow. I gotta say, remember I told you I love Guga's channel because he's doing experiments I would never do? I want to try this at home. I'm really curious now. Like, I want to experience what he's experienced, and I'm pretty sure one of you out there has probably tried this after watching this video. Did you? Let me know in the description below. There's no grade I can give this. Reacting to Guga's channel is more of a learning experience for me. I'll be honest, I feel like this channel is becoming more of a learning experience for me. I think you guys are starting to see a theme. Like, I just filmed my carbonara video that's coming out, and yes, I've made carbonara before, but reacting to all those carbonara videos was a learning experience. And I think I want to kind of keep going in that direction. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. And with that said, I am Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef, and I'll see you really soon.